Why did Gary Vee bail on us? Bail on the sports card hobby. We're going to go through a little bit of a timeline, a little bit of a history. Stick around. What's going on, sports card hobby family? It's another day, it's another sports card video. We're talking about Gary Vee and sports cards today. My quarterly Gary Vee Where Are You video I put out typically. But we have a lot of new viewers, and I wanted to kind of share the story and the timeline and kind of just where I'm feeling on it. Before I get started, huge thanks to today's video sponsor, Pristine Auction. They've got daily auctions, weekly auctions, monthly auctions. They've got 10-minute auctions, and they have a huge announcement today. I saw this pop up on social media with the triple auto, the LeBron, Steph, and Durant Olympic triple auto that was just announced by Topps, and all the bounty talk with Jeff Wilson and Ken Golden and everybody. Well, Jared at Pristine was holding the card. So there's going to be an announcement today at 12 Eastern. So make sure you stay locked in to Pristine Auction on all the socials. Also, I woke up this morning to 4 orders that came through the affiliate for SlabMags. You deserve 10% off, my friends. And for your best cards, they've got to sit in the best cases for protection and for display. I mean, look at these things. Color match them up and have a good time. Sports Card Dad code for 10% off your SlabMags. All right, let's go back down memory lane. Since a lot of this hobby is based on nostalgia and nostalgic feelings, believe it or not, we're almost, 4 or 5 years out from when the pandemic started, and really 2018-19 as Gary Vee was starting to talk sports cards to guys like Rich Eisen and getting ahead of the game, getting excited about sports cards. And it was something that I related to that he came out with at the time. But before we start there, who is Gary Vee? So Gary Vee, I would say, was one of the guys that really got ahead of the game, getting on social media and promoting himself. Whether that was through Wine Library, I think that was maybe 15 years ago, the beginnings of YouTube, where he was doing reviews for his family's wine business. He grew a social media digital agency marketing company out of that, out of social media, kind of helping companies market. And now he's got all the Fortune 500 companies and so forth are working with, I think it's VaynerMedia or whatever it is. He's got his hands in a lot of different things. He's also kind of a Tony Robbins style motivational speaker, talks with a lot of young people. I want to start there actually, because I think for the most part, Gary Vee does offer, for young people especially that might just need a pick-me-up. I feel like I really connected with him going back to 2018-19. I was happy in my family life, but I really liked kind of some of the motivational type stuff. And then I saw that he was getting back into collectibles and that sort of thing. And it was like, okay, this is a guy that I can relate to. I felt like it was relatable. One piece of his advice that I was not crazy about, that he kind of echoes, if you go back, I don't know if he still does. I haven't watched his stuff in a while. But it was around family and kind of, forgiving and loving your parents. And I love my parents, certainly. But I think that there is so much nuance and context and complexity to family life to where I understand the messaging. It might seem kind of simple. Make sure that you give your mom a hug. Make sure you tell your dad you love them, or, make sure that you do that. But that's assuming that, you haven't had trauma that's tied to your family life. I mean, there is a lot to unpack there. And I believe, if I have this right, Gary's parents are still together, so if you have a 2-parent household, and you always have, and you've had that kind of stable family system, well, then you don't know what someone has been through if their parents are divorced. Well, then you haven't lived it. You haven't been through if, your parents were divorced and you've had to deal with the complexities of, trying to make sure mom's okay and dad's okay, and maybe they get remarried and dealing with the complications there and the complexities through that. So, to tell people like, hey, forgive and forget and love, make sure that you're hugging and be kind. Man, be kind is such a, it's funny. You would think like, that's such a nice thing to say. But it's kind of been weaponized a little bit, where it's like, be kind, which essentially means agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, then you're not being kind. It's like, wow, that's a lame way to try to win an argument, is to kind of, I guess, take like a moral high ground, meaning like you are kind and you want other people to be kind and agree. Like, no. That's not how that works. So all in all, I think Gary probably brings some good value there to people on the, on the motivational speaking side and just getting people worked up. He's got energy, he's got charisma. So I think for a lot of people, especially if you're down in the doldrums or, life smacked you in the face, a Gary Vee type guy could be someone that kind of helps get the motor going again. So I think that he does a good job, but I want to just point that out. There's nuance to all of that stuff. And everyone's got a different story, and it's very, very tricky. Again, I haven't watched his stuff recently. Maybe he's moved off of that sort of talk, but that was something I saw going back 2, 3, 4 years ago. All right, so in sports cards, Gary Vee came out, this is going back maybe about 5 years ago, and he was talking it up like, hey, I think that middle-aged dads like me are going to get back into trading cards because of the nostalgic effects, and they've got their kids that are coming up and that sort of thing. And he was correct. He was correct in that notion. He was ahead of it for sure. And, he did talk about just the industry as a whole and, all the things that were happening within the hobby. He did talk about specific cards he was buying, which I understand he moved off of that. That was during a time, again, where you had all the stimulus money coming in. And when he, mentioned Devin Booker Silver Prisms, people went out and bought Devin Booker Silver Prisms. Fine. We're not in that same world anymore. We're just not. And I know some people say like, oh, he's got a large enough platform where people would flock and buy those sorts of things. All right, maybe, but I'm just telling you, we are definitely in a different world now. And even still, he doesn't need to talk about specific cards. He can still talk in generalities. He can still talk about hobby things, the goings on, the newsy type things. He can speak in generalities and just say, hey, look, I'm really enjoying buying vintage basketball cards right now. Doesn't have to say specifically, I'm buying, Wilt Chamberlain auto rookie cards or whatever if he doesn't want to. If he's got, new players that he likes, he can say, hey, look, I'm buying Knicks stuff or whatever it is. I feel like you can still speak in generalities on this stuff. And I really kind of miss that. I like the added commentary. And I think a guy like Gary Vee would be helpful just talking about industry as a whole. I like listening to him speak. Like I said, he's an energetic guy. He's a passionate guy. And we just don't see that anymore. Once there was kind of the rise and the dip, and now it's just VFriends now, which I don't care about VFriends. I'm never going to buy a VFriends card. I like Gary Vee, but I'm not going to go buy a trading card. And it's kind of weird. We've been talking about fanatics turning sports fans into collectors. And, I'm a Gary Vee fan to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go buy trading cards that are Gary Vee trading cards. Now, maybe he's looking for a different type of audience. I know that there's a TCG game, I think, that's wrapped around the thing. But it's just kind of, I don't know, it just irks me a little bit when I'm at the National and I see the gigantic VFriends thing. And I know that's kind of like Gary Vee's Sesame Street cards that he's going to that's his brand. He's going to push that, forward and try to, make that a thing over time. And I think he's had some success with it. He said it's his whole life vision and that's his life thing, his project, because he loves trading cards. But man, why not go back to the stuff that really kind of got you into it and talk more about that on a more regular basis? I know he's busy. I know everybody's busy, but he finds time to make content. He finds time to make content about a variety of different things that he's already kind of touched on. And I know that he does enjoy trading cards. I think that he still has a collection. I still think that he buys sports cards. And so I know that he's in tune with this market and with this industry. I know that he didn't leave it. I know that he's not off, and collecting model airplanes now. Maybe he is in addition to, but I know that he is still involved in sports cards. He's just doing it a little bit more under the radar. I guess just with all the kind of the voices that are coming in, I would like to see Gary Vee kind of make a comeback on sports card commentary. I was on his channel going back to the pandemic. I was able to get on the morning coffee, tea with Gary Vee, not coffee show, tea with Gary Vee that he was doing during the pandemic. I was lucky to get on one of those shows and talk cards for a few minutes. And also the marketing on May, or the marketing show that he was doing. Marketing Wednesdays, I think is what it was. And it was quickly, I got on to be able to ask a question. I don't know Gary Vee. I never knew him. I was just on Twitter. He was asking who wants to basically call in. And I chimed in, I commented, and I was fortunate enough to get invited on. And I don't know, maybe I'm already feeling kind of some nostalgic effects from just the beginning of my channel. And, I felt like we were all kind of getting into it and really enjoying it. And I know that, many would say like, oh, but it was like, the prices were moving up and down. And sure, I understand the volatility and that's what got a lot of people in on prices. There was also just a lot of excitement finding more and more like-minded people. I got back into the hobby in 2018. I started my channel in March of 2020. And, when I was collecting in 2018, 2019, I didn't know that there was YouTube sports cards at all. And, you kind of do this alone mostly. As a 40-year-old man, I was 38 when I got back in, 37, 38. I mean, my buddies weren't collecting cards or buying graded comic books or looking into graded video, like video games. Nobody was doing that. I was keeping that to myself. And then I found this whole online community, and I feel like Gary Vee kind of normalized and made that cool. And then, just kind of bailed on it, and now it's just VFriends and VCon and whatever. And it's like, no, dude, sports card people never cared about any of that stuff. Didn't care about, the new brand and that sort of thing. I mean, just wanted to talk cards. But anyway, that's all I've got today, my friends. Again, just wanted to see a guy that I was 5-6 years ago. I was like, this is awesome that Gary Vee's talking sports cards. And I've got some nostalgia around it. And, it's just kind of too bad. It feels like a letdown. All right, my friends, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.